Hello there everyone, I hope you're doing well. I'm here today with a Dell XPS 9360, which is the 13-inch variation of Dell's 2016 Dell XPS lineup. This particular model, the 9360, was actually re-released a year later in 2017 under the same name when Intel Coffee Lake came out, which was the 8th generation that upped the core count. So the dual cores went to the quad cores went to the 6 cores. So that was a big jump. But this particular model right here is the 7th generation version, meaning this one actually has a dual core and it's based off Intel's Kaby Lake platform, which means it has some issues with Windows 11 support, but we'll touch on that later. I'm actually talking about this computer today because my girlfriend's computer started to crap out recently in the past few days. She has it's some cheap Dell laptop. It's got a plastic chassis and a Pentium in it, and first the battery was having issues, and then all of a sudden the screen started flickering, and so I figured, considering what she has is a pretty low-end laptop and it might not exactly be worth fixing, I figured I might as well take something from my computer pile, so to speak, fix it up, and let her use it at least in the meantime until she can get a new computer. If not, just use this for the foreseeable future, because this is probably a pretty decent setup compared to what she's got going on now. But I figured, since I got to get that set up with Windows 11 and the program she uses for school and all that, I might as well do a little overview video like I've been doing with the other computers I've looked at so far. So without further ado, I'll just get into the basics of the machine. As you can see right here, it's got a nice plastic chassis. It's a little dirty right now. Not ideal, but nothing that can't be dealt with. You can see it's in pretty good shape. The aluminum chassis looks pretty nice. You can see there's it's got a little bit of damage on it. Nothing major. There's a scuff right there and then a minor dent, but nothing major that's gonna impact the functionality or durability of the machine, which is good. On the sides, if you want to look at the I/O ports, right here you got a 4.5mm Dell charging port, which I believe they still use on their XPS machines, but don't quote me on that. I haven't seen the really new ones. You got a Thunderbolt port right here, which I believe is Thunderbolt 2. Can't say for certain though. Got a USB port, which I'm going to assume is USB 3. You got combination headphone microphone jack. You got this little button right here. Just gives you a basic indication of the amount of battery you got left. And going over to the other side, you only got a couple more ports. You've got 2, maybe 3 if you count the lock slot right here. You've got your second USB slot, and then you got a SD card slot. So not a lot of I/O on this, but not exactly a big deal. I'm giving it to my girlfriend so she can work on school and watch Netflix and stuff. It doesn't need to have a lot of I/O ports. No real concerns there. But if I open it up real quick, I don't really need to show you the top yet. You'll see it is on right now, but I don't have access to it. You can see it's got I believe this is carbon fiber chassis on the interior, which is nice. You can see the keyboard's in pretty nice shape. Let me see if I can, yep, it's got a backlit keyboard, which is really nice. And then this little square right here, it's probably not in focus, it's probably hard to see, but it's got a fingerprint sensor, which is nice. She'll be able to sign in with that, which will be cool. And then you can see it probably right on the edge of the frame right here. This laptop, and a lot of XPS laptops, I think until quite recently actually, were putting their webcam at the bottom. And not even center. They put it in the bottom left, which is really weird. If I move the tripod up a little bit, you'll be able to see that the display on this computer has very thin bezels, which is really nice, especially for a laptop that launched in 2016. Even the higher end laptops still had pretty thick bezels, so this is a pretty nice thing to see. Obviously that's the exterior of the machine in terms of what it's made out of and what components we're looking at, but if I close this thing again and I go back to right here, I figured I'd go over the internals of the machine real quick. It's got a i7-7560U, which the U is the term used for Dell's low power processors, and when they say low power, they mean the wattage used, not the clock speed. Which the clock speed on this is pretty good. I believe it's I can't give you exact numbers, but I know it's in the higher 2 gigahertz range, and then it turbo boosts up to the mid 3 gigahertz range. I'm sure I'll put those exact numbers on the screen, so I'm not leaving you guys high and dry. I did mention it earlier. It is a dual core, but it is hyper-threaded, so by no means powerful for today's standards, but no real issues there for what this machine's going to be being used for. Just, you know, web browsing, word processing. Really shouldn't be an issue, nothing intensive, but the other important thing there is that it's Kaby Lake, which means it doesn't have native Windows 11 support. But moving beyond that, this only has 8 gigs of RAM, but what's more interesting about it is it's LPDDR3 and it's soldered onto the motherboard, so I couldn't upgrade this even if I wanted to, which is unfortunate. But again, 8 gigs of RAM, you know, a few web browsing tabs, and you know, a Word document, not a big deal. It's also got a 256 gigabyte NVMe SSD, which is really nice. Can't go wrong with those. Those were not exactly common when this laptop came out. I mean, they definitely were for the, I wouldn't call them common, but they were definitely not something that, they weren't something you'd be surprised to see if you saw them in 2016 on a laptop of this caliber, because this was pretty high-end for a 13-inch laptop when it came out. But, you know, definitely a nice to have. Gonna make this laptop feel pretty snappy, even for today's standards. And it's also got, you may have been able to make it out, the screen looked pretty clear. That's because it's a 1920 by 1020 display, which is pretty nice, so it's 1080p. But it's also, it also looks better than it probably should, because, you know, it's only a 13-inch screen, so the pixel density is pretty high. It actually looks a lot better than some 1440p displays that I've seen that are obviously quite bigger. So with that over with, I think I'm going to boot this thing up real quick. I'm just going to show you some basic info on the BIOS, if there's anything interesting to show, and then I'll start the process of putting Windows 11 on this thing, and I'll tell you how I did it, because it's not exactly natively supported, so I had to do a few things to make it compatible, but I'll touch on that in a minute. Now, before I do that, I should probably show you the inside of the machine just real quick. There's not actually much to show you, but I figured I should do that real quick just so you can get a good look inside. Something you probably noticed real quick is that the screws you see here are not standard Phillips screws. They are this somewhat starry shape. I don't know what it's called, but I do luckily have the screwdriver bit for it, so I'm going to take these screws off and I'm going to show you inside. Okay, so with the screws off, this actually doesn't come off that easily. I did loosen it up before I started this clip, but this thing was held in place pretty firmly. I actually had to use a tool to get it off, so it is on there pretty tight, which I guess is good in case you somehow manage to lose screws. But moving that aside, probably the first thing you're going to notice is that the battery is absolutely gigantic. So this particular battery is 60 watt hours. I do believe they had a smaller battery that left space for a 2.5-inch drive. I'm not 100% sure, but I read something about that. So that was an option, but the battery is huge, which I guess makes sense, because these types of laptops generally tried to have pretty good battery life. But besides that, something you're probably noticing is you got your M.2 slot right here. This is an NVMe drive, 256 gigs, but other than that, not much. You got your Wi-Fi card right there, but that's it. No RAM slots, no nothing. And this isn't like the Precision that I looked at, where you can go under the keyboard and there's more there. It's it. This is it. You got your ports right here, you got your fans, that's it. There's not really much here. But I figured I'd give you guys a quick little look before I start getting the computer set up. But yeah, this is your quick look at the inside of the computer, and now we'll finally get the computer booted up. Alright, so I'm booted into the BIOS now, and there's not exactly much of note. If I move the mouse around, yeah, you'll notice the backlight turns on, and on the camera it's weird. It looks like it's flickering, but in person it's not at all. It's fine. So no hardware issue there. The camera's just being a little funny. But in regards to the actual BIOS itself, again, not much of note. You got the specs I mentioned earlier. I do the clocks for the CPU are right there, so its base clock is 2.4. It says current is 3.7, so I'm assuming that's what it can turbo boost up to. So that's interesting. But moving out of the battery, it's in good health, which is good, because I want the battery to actually be functional if I'm giving this computer to someone to use for school. But Other than that, not much of note in here. I actually did boot up the computer earlier just to ensure that it was working, and I discovered that the BIOS at the time was actually locked. So I was a little worried I wasn't going to be able to change BIOS settings if I needed to. But, well, fortunately I wasn't going to need to. I went through and I saw that everything was fine. But I figured I might as well try to unlock it anyway, just in case there's any issues in the future. And I thought it was going to be difficult because I thought I was going to essentially have to try to crack the password somehow, which I assumed would be impossible. And I knew, based on the fact I got this computer several years ago from my brother, actually, and he didn't use it for too long. I knew the eBay seller wasn't going to know the password still if he ever really did. I don't know how many owners it had before it got in my hands, but I was worried I wasn't going to be able to get rid of the password. But it turns out that I guess all Dell BIOSes have a master password, or I think it depends on the specific model. There's a master password for each model, something like that. But yeah, you can just put that password in and it gets rid of the password, which I guess kind of defeats the point, because if there's a second password, you can just look up on the internet to get rid of the BIOS lock. I guess that defeats the purpose of a BIOS password, but I'm guessing it wasn't so easy to find, 7 or so years ago, and this computer was new, and I'm guessing, again, I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing that it's not so easy to find the master passwords for modern Dell BIOSes, so who knows, but I just thought that was funny. But anyways, there's not much going on in the BIOS, so I'm going to plug this USB in right here. It's got Windows 11 on it, and it's actually got a modified version of Windows 11 because I need it to work on a system that doesn't officially support Windows 11, and we'll get going. So in the boot menu right here, I'll select the UEFI USB drive, which has Windows 11 on it. Hopefully we should be able to boot into that real quick. Don't know what that screen was. I haven't seen that before on a Dell boot up screen, but hopefully there's no issues because it's late and I don't really have time for those. But it seems like it's going fine so far. Now that we're actually getting into the process of installing Windows 11, I figured I might as well tell you how exactly I'm making this work, since it's not officially supported on this machine. So what I did is I used a media creation tool called Rufus, which you've probably heard of. And essentially, once you give it a disk image for Windows 11, which, we're going to install Windows 11 right here. I agree. There we go. Yeah, but it takes a disk image of Windows 11 and it modifies it to remove that TPM check when I'm pretty sure it just said checking your PC, and it modifies that check to not check for the TPM, or maybe it tells it you have TPM 2.0. It also gets rid of the 4GB RAM requirement, and then it also did something else where I'm not going to need to log in with a Microsoft account. I can actually just create a local account, which is great because I don't want to create a Microsoft account for my girlfriend right now, or log her into one if she has one. But looking at this real quick, this disk has got a lot of partitions on it. Oh, it looks like it's including the USB drive as a disk, but even separate from that, yeah, there's a lot of partitions on here. I'm just gonna delete all of them if it'll let me. And what I'm going to do is from there I'm going to format a new partition and install it on that, which should be pretty easy. Yeah, so I got rid of all the partitions. Gonna make a new one now to install on. Just ignore those 4 others. Those are for the USB actually. There we go. Yep, we're gonna install Windows 11 home. Keep nothing, so that means it's gonna format the disk, even though I already erased everything. But yeah, it's gonna format the disk, which is good. I'm hoping it'll just automatically activate since this has a Windows 10 home key on the motherboard, but we'll see. I might have to find a key somewhere, but hopefully it just activates by itself. But back to what I was saying about how I was able to essentially circumvent some of the requirements here with Rufus. So yeah, when I get to the next stage of the setup process, I'm not going to need to create a Microsoft account, which is great. And I didn't just have to go through the TPM check, which means this thing should install Windows 11 fine, which is great, because the TPM requirement for Windows 11, I'm not exactly sure Microsoft meant well when they implemented it, but I get where the argument's coming from, where you have a security need, but as a byproduct of that requirement, a lot of computers that could handle the operating system perfectly well are essentially becoming e-waste in a year when Windows 10 goes out of support, and they don't have any official support from Microsoft for any operating system. So it's great that I'm able to get this on here. Fingers crossed. There could always be issues. I said there was no issues when I was installing Windows XP on the Precision, and then it ended up being like a 2-hour endeavor. So don't want to say anything with absolute certainty, but it's going well so far. It's installing and copying the files, and once I actually get in, I'll check a few things out, make sure the machine's in good condition, and then of course I have drivers to worry about. But I'll get back to you guys once this is done, copying the files and installing the operating system. Alright, so it's restarting now. I'm not exactly sure if it's going to go straight into the out-of-box experience or if it has more setup to do. I've only installed Windows 11 a couple of times, and it was quite a bit back, so I'm not entirely familiar with the setup process, but we'll see. Alright, we're restarting again. We'll see how many more times it has to do it, but we'll see. It's probably going to start doing the loading wheel again, but we'll see where it goes. Yep, and it's loading into the out-of-box experience. A little slowly actually, but not exactly a huge surprise, because I'm guessing that there's some graphics driver issues that need to get installed. But now that we're in here, we can get this thing set up, which is good. Touchpad's working, which is great. Yep, region, United States. Yep, keyboard up. Keyboard layout is good. No need for a second one. Let's connect you to a network. Yep, I'm going to blur this out, but I'll do that right now. I'll be back in a second, just so you guys don't see my network info. Alright, logged into the internet, which is good. Let's move on to the next step. I'm curious if it's still going to try to ask me to make a Microsoft account, and it's going to let me say no, or if it's just going to go straight into making a local account. Hopefully it's just a local account, but it's going to check for updates real quick, and hopefully it doesn't have much, because I downloaded the disk image today, so it should be pretty up to date, I'd hope. It was from Microsoft's website, so it's not like it should be out of date or anything, unless they don't update their own website, but we'll see. And it's going to restart again. That's just fun. So as it's installing the updates, the screen actually flickered a few times, which I'm hoping isn't an issue and was actually the graphics drivers installing, which if so would be a very good sign. I was a little worried that there might be some driver issues due to the fact that this laptop, hardware-wise, doesn't support Windows 11, and so I thought I'd have to try to install the Windows 10 drivers on it and see if they worked, which I assumed most of them would, because Windows 10 and 11 are pretty much just the same thing. But I was worried I was going to have to do that, and then luckily I remembered that this same exact model number also was re-released with support for 8th generation Intel processors, and therefore that means this does have driver support for Windows 11, so I figured that I just have to use those drivers, but if I'm lucky, it'll just install most of the drivers automatically through Windows Update. We'll see. I'm sure I'll have to install, one or two for some of the more niche components, like the fingerprint reader or something, but we'll see. So it finished up on that screen, and then it said it was about to restart, and now I think it's actually installing the updates for real. I think. We'll see. It'll probably be on here for a few minutes. Or like 10 seconds. There's no in between. We'll see. So now it's restarting for real. Must have finished installing those updates. I don't know if it's going to actually restart or if it's going to go back into another setup loop, but we'll see. I'm assuming it's going to get us set up with the user account now that the updates are done. Nope, they're not done. Okay. Bear with me. Alright, so finished with the updates, and unfortunately it looks like the fix for the Microsoft account didn't work, which is weird because it looks like the TPM requirement or the TPM workaround worked, but this didn't, which is unfortunate. So not sure what I can do here. I'm going to do some research real quick, and I'll get back to you. Alright, so I did unfortunately have to make a Microsoft account. I probably could have found a workaround, but apparently it's a lot harder with Windows 11 Home as opposed to Windows 11 Pro, and then I would have had to reinstall it and would have had to done the whole thing. So she has a Microsoft account now. Yay. I obviously didn't show that part of the setup just for privacy reasons, but now that we've gotten past that, we've got options for all these. Generally I turn all of these off just because I don't like giving Microsoft random information. So we'll turn all of them off. We'll accept, and then I think we're pretty close to being done. We'll have to see. Let's see. Yep, set up as new PC. No need to restore. And I think we might be done in terms of setup. Nope, there's more. Okay, it wants to customize stuff now. What are you using this for? School. That's about it. Don't know what it's gonna do, but it's for school. So no need to use phone from your computer. Not gonna need that. Don't need that. Is it just gonna offer like 80 billion products? We're good. Oh my god. I don't need it. School gives it to us for free. You know, you can. Okay, cool. I can use it for free. Next. Can I skip it? Finishing up. There we go. That's what we like to see. And there we are. We're all set up. That's good. Learn about this picture. I'm actually curious. Let's see. Oh. Cool, yeah, welcome to Microsoft Edge. Cool. No, don't need to import anything. Okay. Wow, they really ask you a billion questions. That's cool. Okay, and it just shows you a basic Microsoft Edge summary of the photo. That is not what we're here for. Okay, we're in now. That's good. Let's see, how much battery did we lose setting up? Like 40%. Okay, that is not great, but granted, it was installing stuff, so it's probably worse than usual. Time zone's off. It's actually 12:53 at night, so I'm gonna fix that real quick. Time zone's changed to Eastern time. Yep, 12. There we go. Got the correct time. Just since we're in the settings, let's look. We got everything in here correctly. Storage, system components. There we go. Nope, that's not what I was looking for. I have not used Windows 11 in a while, and I've never daily driven it, so this might be a little fun. There we go. About. Yeah. It's got the CPU, got the RAM. Okay, yeah. Didn't know if it'd be a scenario where it thought it was a different CPU. I didn't think so, but just wanted to be sure. And then let's check the activation status. I'm curious if the Windows 10 key on the motherboard works for Windows 11. And yes, it does. That's good. I know it's really easy to activate Windows 11 if you have any sort of key tied to your motherboard, so that's good. But now that that's done, let's check real quick. in Device Manager. It'll let me. I'll search it. Let's see. Man, yeah, it still hasn't changed. Okay, there's only a few drivers that have not been downloaded. I'm assuming one of them is the fingerprint sensor. Because it would probably show, let's see, update driver. Let's see if we can find them automatically. It cannot. Search on Windows Update. You know, that might be the place to find it. And yeah, it looks like there's a few driver update for Intel Xeon, even though this is not an Intel Xeon, but it probably works. Yeah, it looks like there's a few driver related things there. Let's see, does it have the fingerprint sensor? Change sign-in requirements. Fingerprint sensor unavailable. Okay, yeah, so there's definitely a RAM issue, not a RAM issue there, a driver issue there. Couldn't find a fingerprint sensor compatible. Okay, so I'm gonna have to find that driver. That's cool. Good to know. I mean, I'm gonna restart the computer first and then see if it downloads it automatically, and then after that, so I'm gonna restart. I'm gonna hope it finds the drivers, and then if whatever it doesn't find, I'm gonna install myself, and then from there I'm gonna get a few basic things set up that she uses. So only a few things left to do, and the good news is it's running great so far. Not exactly blazing fast, but no major issues either. So I'm gonna restart it, and then hopefully those drivers are alright. Alright, so I restarted and installed all those updates, but unfortunately those 3 drivers are still missing. So what I think I'm going to do is I have my external hard drive right here, and I did anticipate having to install drivers, so I have an entire folder full of drivers for this computer. I'm mainly just looking for the fingerprint one, so I'm going to put this, or cannot put this, I'm going to connect this to my computer, and I'm going to see if I can get that fingerprint driver installed, because I'd like to have her be able to sign in with that. I think that'd be cool. So hopefully that works. I'm actually going to connect this with USB-C, which it has one slot for that, which is great, considering this computer came out in 2016. But I'll take this out. Don't need that anymore. And let's see. Yep, Seagate. There it is. Open in view. There we go. Where's my drive? There we go. Drivers folder. XPS 9360. Windows 10 to 11. And then one of these should be the fingerprint. And if not, there we go. Yep, Synaptics fingerprint sensor driver. I really hope this works, because I would hate for this fingerprint sensor to not work. Here we go, Synaptics. Let's hope it's actually functional. Oh, no explanation. Okay, that's interesting. How about I try and install it from the Dell website and see what happens there. So it happened really quick, and I couldn't catch it on camera, but I found a much earlier or older version of the driver and tried to install it, and says it installed successfully, and one of the now we can get rid of that. One of the devices is missing from the list, which means it got added somewhere. Let's see, yeah, there's not a biometric device, so I assume it's somewhere under here. Or not, but I guess we should go to, let's see if that'll update. Let's see if we can do a fingerprint sign-on now. Use fingerprint sign-on. I'm not going to set it up, I just want to see if it'll detect it, because it's not going to be my finger that's going to be used. And yeah, it looks like it's there, so that's great. We got that set up. That's really cool, a cool feature to have. Obviously no facial recognition, but no big deal there. I mean, now that that's set up, I'm not really worried about whatever these other 2 drivers are. I assume they're not going to be needed. It's probably something like power management or whatever. But now that that's set up, the other thing I wanted to look into was what condition is this battery in. And I do have a tool to look at that. It's called Battery Info View. Let's see, performance and diagnostic tools. Right here, there's an old version of Rufus. Battery Info View. Let's see. Current capacity. Okay, I was worried that was the battery health, but it looks like the battery health is much better at 60%. So I might want to look into a battery replacement, because I can, with a battery health like 60%, I can definitely hold a charge, but that's definitely not great. That's something I'll have to look into. You know, a working computer is better than a not working computer, so I guess it is what it is. Not great, but oh well. Looks like, couldn't see it, but it looks like it's still running about 35 watt hours, which, let's actually open that up again. Yeah, so it was designed for 59, around 60 milliwatt hours, and it's running around 35, which is not great, but again, it's good enough for now. I'll have to look into replacing it, but it should work for now. Let's see, let's look at the disk info on this. Disk info 64. I just want to see how much has this SSD been used. Should load. There we go. Let's see. Wow, that's a lot of power on hours. 827 days. Yeah, so this thing has seen some use. It's been powered on only around 1,500 times. That's not as many as I would expect for that many hours of usage. But let's see, 87%. So I'm assuming that means it's written 13% that or 30% of its theoretical limit. Not 100% sure. Let's see, and it's got my external hard drive, so that's cool. The other thing we're gonna do is we're gonna see how fast is this SSD, because it's an M.2 NVMe, but it's an old one, so it's probably not anywhere near as fast as the modern ones. Let's see. Open that up. All right, so I'm gonna let this run, and then I'll get back to you guys, because this can take a minute. So the speed tests are done, and it looks like it reads at about 1,550 megabytes per second and writes at about, let's just say, 700 megabytes per second. So looks like the read speeds are about 3 times as fast as the SATA SSD, and the writes are comparable. So, you know, it's a little faster than the SATA SSD, or not a little faster, the reads are 3 times as fast. So, you know, it's definitely faster than a SATA SSD, but definitely nothing compared to the modern M.2 NVMe SSDs. I mean, this is one, but it's slower. So it's definitely good, but it's not up to par with modern SSDs. You can't really complain with how old it is, though, and the fact that this computer, if you were to buy it off eBay, would probably only be like 80 or 90 bucks. So you can't really complain. It's not too bad. Just close that real quick if it'll let me. There we go. I don't really have many other tests to run. We already discussed the specs. We already know what it can do. We know Windows is activated. We know the majority of the drivers is set up. I'll close this real quick. The only thing I really have left to do is I got to put some software on this that you'll need, and that's why I want to introduce you to a tool, if you haven't heard of it, called Ninite, or Ninite. I think it's Ninite. Yeah, here we go. It's free. It's pretty simple. You just go to this website and you click on the software you need. It's that simple. And let's see, what you gonna need? Chrome, not Firefox. Already has Edge. Gonna need Zoom, but not, you know, Skype. Doesn't need Office. Doesn't need a torrenting software. None of this. So it's really simple. You can just click whatever you want, which is great. But for her, it's only going to be a few things. No antivirus needed. None of this. Did I really just come here for Chrome and Zoom? I think I'm... Oh, Spotify. It's 3 things. Which might not seem like it's worth it, but another big appeal is that once you get the client, not the client, the executable, it's going to install all 3 of these applications. Here we go. Sorry about the glare. It's going to install all 3 of these without need me to click anything. It's just going to install them, which is great. So it's convenient in that you don't need to go to all the websites, and it's also convenient in that you don't need to go through a bunch of different installers, which is great, actually. Can't complain there. I know I've avoided a lot of headaches with new computers when I've had this available, and it's a good tool to have. But so it's going to install those few things, and then this computer is pretty much just going to be set up. Luckily, no major issues. You know, that slight driver hiccup, but all I had to do was find that one fingerprint driver, and it is a shame the battery is not exactly in the best shape, but I would say it is usable for now, and then I'll have to look for a new one. But it's usable. It only needs a 45-watt charger, so it's not like it needs one of the big beefy Dell chargers, and if you do use one of those, it'll charge quicker, so no big deal. And you know, when you consider that this computer's 7 years old, it's still very capable. Yeah, it's a dual core, but you know, if you're someone who's a student or just using it for day-to-day web browsing, there really isn't that much to complain about. I mean, it's got a nice screen. You can watch videos on this, and I guess while it's installing these, I'll bring something up on YouTube just to show you that it can play video. You know what? Let's look up one of my videos. I spelled my name incorrectly. That's a great one. Oh, the thumbnails aren't loading. That's cool. Let's see. Let's look at the Windows XP installation video.
Hello everyone. Welcome back.
And let's mute it. Yeah. No issues. Seems to be displaying everything properly. I'm not seeing any stuttering, which is good. Yeah, so no worries there. That's good. Well, let's see. Let's go back to 9.9. Yeah, it's got all three of those programs installed. Yep, you see we got the three icons right there. So yeah, looks like this thing's all set up. Obviously Office needs to be put on it too, but she'll need to sign in with their university account, so I can't do that for her. But yeah, so this is my little overview and setup video of the XPS 9360. I hope you enjoyed it. If you got any suggestions for what exactly I should do in the future, not with this computer because it's not going to be mine, but if you just got any suggestions for what I should do in the future with, you know, some computer projects or maybe some of the machines I've worked with in past videos, feel free to let me know. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.